I just saw earlier that apparently A24, of all people, is working on an Elon Musk biopic. So that's a thing that I now have to imagine in my head. And even worse, it's apparently a thing that will literally exist in the actual corporeal realm in which we sleep and we wake. I've mentioned before that I write reviews for everything I consume. I just don't post most of them. I don't make videos of most of them. I just write as a hobby. Sometimes I feel compelled to turn something I write into a video, but I just write to organize my thoughts. So yeah, I wrote like a review for Oppenheimer. I didn't post it. I wrote for the Barbenheimer fucking double feature specifically. I wrote like this long 10-page document on my thoughts on Oppenheimer. Didn't make it into a video because one, it would have and still probably would be an unpopular take since I didn't significantly care for the film. And two, because my thoughts weren't that original on it, at least enough to justify the effort. Also, I'm too lazy to do it. But now, I cannot sit in silence. I will have my voice be heard. I have realized that biopics are fucking garbage and they suck ass and I hate you. I mean, even the very meaning of the word. A motion picture dramatizing someone's life. I hate that. I fucking hate that. That creeps me the fuck out. As someone who dislikes celebrity culture, I honestly should have put the pieces together a long time ago. Like, yes, okay, biopics, terrible. Inherently bad. A celebrity is a real human whose existence is dramatized, and they are turned into this exaggerated fictional character for the entertainment and the wish fulfillment pleasure of masses of bystanders who will never know them personally. And I hate that, so why shouldn't I hate biopics? I think it became clearest to me while watching the David Bowie documentary from last year. Now, not a biopic, was a documentary. And it doesn't even have half of the problems that a lot of biopics have. It's basically just 2 hours of some fucking fanboys talking about how cool David Bowie is, with backdrops cutting into images from his concerts and videos. Fair enough, whatever. I just hated that because of all the reasons I already hate celebrity culture. But watching that made me more critical of biopics I've seen in the past and then going into 2023. Let's use Oppenheimer as an example. I won't talk about the directing or the filmmaking or the quality of the narrative or the cinematography or anything like that. I'm just going to try to talk about just as a biopic, the things that biopics tend to do that I dislike universally. That every biopic, transgresses to a greater or lesser extent. Firstly, as I mentioned in my Killers of the Flower Moon video, I don't like putting words in people's mouths, especially dead people. I guess I don't really care if it's really, really, really old dead people, as in, like, pagan era, thousands of years old, because all we have is romantic speculation about them, and they're old enough that I don't necessarily care about insulting or misrepresenting them in a cultural sense. Does this make sense? Probably not, but I just don't feel as vitriolic about that kind of thing. Now, this is a point where I already lose some people, and I struggle to get some people to stay with me on this point because a lot of people clap back with, oh, the film is historically accurate. How can you say that it's making things up about people or events? Both of these things are true. The thing about a movie is that it communicates way more than just the explicit text on the screen. A movie shows you an entire world. You're seeing all the color and the environments and the characters and the pores on their skin. You're seeing a full flesh and blood actor on the screen. So everything that person does, acting, words, mannerisms, details, and exactly how the film and camera choose to imply things about the environment and the person, and they all express and communicate things. It's just like saying, like, in photography, there's this misconception in photography that photography is somehow objective because you're just taking a picture of the real world. Well, no. The photograph is framed by the artist. They choose the lens, the lighting, the filter, whatever else. They choose how to stage the scene, what to take a picture of, the fact that it was deemed important enough by the artist to photograph in the first place, edits in Photoshop, whatever. Not like blatant lies, but just like touching up the lighting in this way or that way. These are all forms of the artist putting their worldview, their choices, and their expression into that photograph. The same is true for film. There's a sensory overload of information in any film. 3 hours of visuals, sound, complex sets, editing, pacing, framing choices. The movie is a story that is written by a writer, directed by a director, whether or not that's the same person, and they have to tell the actors what to do, how to make the sets, what to show, what dialogue, what to imply to the visual storytelling. The creators are telling you their own story. 90% of the decisions going on into a biopic like this, 90% or more of the decisions have to be workshopped and decided by the filmmakers. It's just using the framing device of a handful of historically accurate facts and pieces of data to structure things around as a guideline for how to make those decisions on details and what to fucking present and how to present it. So no, watching the 2023 film Oppenheimer does not mean that you truly understand the real human being Robert Oppenheimer, Dr. Oppenheimer, as he was when he was alive. You are watching a character on a screen, reading lines written by a writer in a shot framed by a director in a scene chosen to focus on by a director, portrayed by an actor. So no, I don't want to fucking hear this shit about how it's historically accurate and therefore you can't criticize it for putting its own opinions and its own worldview and its own story into the mouths of this whatever. 90% of the choices and details or more are made up. They are decided, they are workshopped, whatever. You can't just read someone's Wikipedia page about what has been documented about them in their life and then act like you know them. That's the first reason I don't like biopics. I don't like when real human beings have some writer, especially years after they die, make a story that implies things about everything that they've ever thought. And like their exact personality, their beliefs, everything else. I don't like that in Killers of the Flower Moon, where the movie is clearly putting words into the mouths and minds of real fucking people like Molly, and suggesting that she and Ernest were truly in love, and when Ernest, they're just in a bad situation, but, you know, they care. That's a hell of a thing to say about the guy who participated in the slaughter of a woman's family. Oh, he actually really loved her, ooh, ooh, ooh. Especially to say about real human beings in a fucking biopic. It's even more... Even if it's more accurate than it is not, I just also hate dramatizing dead people's lives without their permission. I hate dramatizing real people's lives, even with their permission, because I hate how obsessed the general public is with dramatizing real human beings and turning their lives into these oversimplified archetypes and fucking cliches and these ham-fisted morals. Real life will always be infinitely, truly infinitely more complex than the theoretical message of a film. Real life is real. Its potential for interpretation is infinite. It is all-encompassing. It justifies itself. I just don't like distilling real life and real people into these characters and archetypes. And biopics, especially ones like Oppenheimer, are basically just normal movies that happen to feature dead people and events that happened in real life. Like, take, May December, right? May December just came out. Fictional story, but, the scandal that it's about is largely taken from a real-life incident with real people that are still alive today. So, it's... Okay, take Animal Farm. I know, I'm lazy. My examples are lazy. I go to Orwell fucking 9 times out of 10, but I like Animal Farm. It's a short story. It is a fictional story based on reality. okay? And that works for me because it is obviously a direct metaphor for reality. Rather than trying to tell a story about the physical reality, it's not a biopic about Joseph Stalin. The fact that all the characters are based on real people, but they are obviously like cartoony political satire versions of those real people, in that they're all farm animals that play into their political caricature states. That's fine with me, because the abstraction shows the audience that it is clearly the writer's political commentary on how he views and what he wants to say about these people. Instead of writing this line that biopics often do, where they try to trick people by acting like this is just no bias from the creator, the writer, the director. This is just a totally authentic view of real people. You can't. Literally, it is not fucking possible to make a truly real biopic. Quote unquote. It will always be the writer and director's view of these real people, real events, and what they want to direct and how they make decisions for how to go about it. I don't like biopics because a lot of biopics pretend like that's not the case. Like, the closest thing to a real biopic is a movie this year, Reality. It was Sydney Sweeney, which is very close to being a documentary in how much of the film is based on clearly defined facts from real life, but it is still technically just a very self-affronting dramatization of real-life events. If you want to be as accurate as possible and make media to be, like, informative about a real thing, I say just make a documentary. If you want to investigate, like, a person's life from history or, like, an event from the past, make a historical documentary. Interview historians on camera, go over records and evidence, have people talking about what we know, what we don't know, right? That's how you educate people, if education about real facts is the goal. I don't care that that's boring as shit and nobody would fucking watch it. I don't think biopics are respectful to the complexities and unknowabilities of reality, and I don't think they are a good substitute for learning history. Biopics have an arrogance about them and how they fill all of the gaps that we don't know with their own fucking ideas while pretending like that's not happening. Biopics cover up what they don't know, they write their own shit in, they choose what to show, what not to show, how much to show, how to portray it, what fucking music and camera angle to put behind it, how to suggest what's important and what's not with the language of the film. And they just write in their own shit instead of admitting where their knowledge starts and where their knowledge of facts ends. I don't fucking respect it, and I don't see it as respectful. Just look at, this year, right? Look at The Blind Side. I liked the movie when it came out. You know, it's a good movie, but its weakest aspect is the fact that it's a biopic, that it's based on real life, and implying things about real life by taking artistic liberties with real life, which is why today, in the year 2023, you've got people suddenly being shocked that Michael Oher's relationship with his family isn't actually that great, as it was portrayed in the film. He was never actually officially adopted by them. Their motivations probably weren't as fucking white savior pure as the film suggests. I'm not even saying the film necessarily made a mistake in its research. That's just what happens when you try to create a world within a film based on your own limited knowledge of the real world you're trying to replicate. You can't know everything that you're going to have to make decisions on to portray it in a film. Yeah, it's gonna be fucking inaccurate. When it's about living people like Michael Oher, it's bad because it affects their real lives now and how they are viewed by people and strangers who think that they know Oher because they watch this fucking movie. Or for dead people like Oppenheimer, he's not around, no one's around to defend whatever inaccuracies it made about his opinions or his character because they're all dead. Next issue I have with biopics and Oppenheimer and stuff, and this is something that only some biopics do to a significant extent, but I do think it's annoying, and again, it's part of my I dislike celebrity culture thing. I don't like worshipping people. I don't like when people categorize someone as fundamentally different and more special than other human beings. I don't like dramatizing reality by turning it into a cliche. Like, celebrity culture makes fans feel like they know a celebrity personally, like they understand their vibe, their personality, like they're close in mind and spirit and worldview. You don't know them, you have an image in your head of a fictional character that you project onto them, and that is fostered by marketing. And then talk about real life as though it's a fucking story with no consequences. People care about whether some fucking minor celebrity has a good take or a bad take on an issue, whether they're a quote-unquote good person or bad person in some lineup of whatever actions or words they've created that have been made public somehow. Why the fuck do we elevate these people to godhood? Why do we bicker about whether or not, I don't know, fucking Johnny Depp is abusive to his significant other? There are so many domestic abuse cases in this country and around the world, and why do we act like it's some great battle for justice when it's just a fucking celebrity whose only skill set is, like, acting in movies, and he's rich but not, like, that rich? He's not, like, fucking billionaire, business mogul rich? Like, they're just people. Just treat them like normal fucking people. They aren't champions. They aren't special. They aren't, like, particularly, fucking important. They just have money and a platform. They aren't fundamentally more special or more knowledgeable or like a class of organic being. When it comes to biopics, I like history. I like to read history. I mostly read ancient history, like anthro shit. I don't appreciate or believe in great man, as it's called, great man readings of history. I don't believe that the entire human race is 95% defined by the actions of a few special great men. I don't think that people just have their skill sets and their circumstances, and some are outliers. Oh, I do think that, people are just people. They're good at what they're good at, they're bad at what they're bad at. Some people are outliers in their level of skill in a certain subject, or their circumstances that allowed them to be in a position to influence something. But everyone is human and exists on a human scale, and they're all comparable. The thing about inventions is that only one person can get credit for inventing something, like an idea, and even then, history is very bad at accurately crediting the origins of an idea. That credit is probably misattributed. No human exists in a vacuum, and no person's thoughts exist in a vacuum. People's ideas are an amalgamation of human ideas from before them and from all around them. In real life, we know that people often get credit for things that they maybe probably shouldn't, at least not as much as they do. The person who makes something famous and popular and lucrative is often not a person who had the intelligence and hard work and creativity to birth it all on their own, just as an individual. Elvis was a ripoff of Little Richard, to steal a 2023 film example, obviously. Tons of people we see in the present day are just the typically white men who managed to get important enough people to say that they were the genius originator of something. But in fact, tons of people contribute to most things, either directly or the indirect contributions made by the collective ideas of the entire social grapevine of a culture. I mean, does every person with power and authority in the world, every person who does big things that influence the world, are they all special human beings? Are they all of a superior class of person? Like that shitty fucking awful Napoleon movie that's out right now? Okay, let's look at some modern day tyrants. The Napoleon movie so badly wants to suggest that Napoleon did what he did and accomplished what he did because he's just so fucking special. He's the son of God, he's just that fucking more special than every other person, and all the lives of everyone else are just ants with no influence, and his innate greatness drives the entire planet Earth. Like, everything that happened was 100% because of him and his specialness, and not because of just a complex network of real people and real circumstances in Europe, in France, in the world. Okay, so like Putin. Let's look at real life in today. Is Putin some fucking incredibly special person? Is he just on another level of humanity? Is he just like fucking 1,000 times more talented and more spiritually powerful than other people? No, he's a fucking 2-bit political snake with some moderate skills in terms of political manipulations and skills that service in his dictatorial endeavors. But no, he's a fucking guy. He's just a fucking guy who happened upon circumstances and available actions and certain modest, existent human-level skills and a lack of morals, all of which that allowed him to lend this position of power that he's in today. Like, man, Napoleon was just some fucking cocky college bro who loved cuckoldry and unwashed pussy and wrote shitty erotic fanfiction, or he wrote fucking self-insert fanfiction about how he was so much smarter and cooler than his college friends. He was just a weird fucking cringe-lord sexual deviant who just happened to be very talented at organizing military companies and endearing himself to troops. That's a movie where it shows the worst of both problems. The Napoleon movie, I mean. It overinflates him as a person and makes him seem more special as a human being than it actually is by implying that he's not a normal human. He's a mythical creature. And it also insults him in that it doesn't portray him with enough respect as a fucking human being, because it dumbs down all of his real-life actual skills and feats to just dumb it down into these simple, dumb historical inaccuracies and, like, movie cliches. That's the thing. Worship is not respect. We see it with celebrity culture. People love to worship and scream and shout in love with the celebrity, but they also feel an entitlement over that celebrity, and they'll judge them if they do something they don't like. Like, moving away from the image of the fictional character that they want to see. Like any incel who worships and simps for some celebrity woman only to heel turn and call her a bitch when she doesn't do something that he wanted. That's worship, that's not respect, okay? That's all I want from the way we view real-life figures. I don't want them fucking worshipped and treated like they aren't human, and like they're just, like, they are in a position of influence in the world because they're just so fucking special. They're a person. I just want a modicum of respect for just people, okay? Like, how you're not allowed to point out that, like, the founding fathers of the U.S. were slave owners, or things that don't fit into, like, this binary good guy, bad guy dramatization of reality. Like, you're only allowed to view them. You're only allowed to view people that we perceive as good as, like, perfect and inhuman in their specialness. I just want people to be respected as individuals, as people with qualities and flaws and circumstances in their lives, as a fucking human person. The other thing about history, we can see the writings of famous people who had a platform to write and had their writing preserved and whatnot, but we can't see the infinite social makeup of, like, the time period that they lived in, the random citizens chatting in the pubs and the social spaces, the family gatherings, the infinite linguistic connection of people sharing ideas and views about the world. It's a dramatic instinct for people to want to associate greatness with specific individuals. People want a nice, simple, clean story about one fucking hero who did all the things and was so fucking cool and smart and awesome that he just did everything, all the accomplishments. People have so much bias that makes them want to view the world in terms of great man theory because it makes it consumable for drama. It's a simpler explanation. Some people are just hotter and cooler and better, and they just do everything because they want to believe in the concept of greatness for their own reasons, to theorize that they can see great people to worship, or that they might be great people. That some people are just more special than others to fit their worldly biases. Like, countless historical examples show the whitewashing of culture and significant societal contributions made by people who others didn't want to lift as their heroes. And the thing about ownership and invention is only one people can be seen as the inventor of an idea. Once a thing is discovered and known, the point is that no one else will be able to create it, even if they had the ability to. So, like, Thomas Edison, let's say, okay, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Okay, well, is that because he was the only human being on the planet in human history capable of doing so? Was he fated to do so by God? Or was he just a person with the right skill set, in the right ideas, in the right circumstances, and once he invented it, that was it. No one else in the world can invent it. If he didn't exist, would it never have been made? Or would someone else just have wound up being the right mind and the right idea and the right circumstances to invent it? So Edison gets the credit, but is it because of a specific uniqueness of his character and ability that no one else can match? Or is it because someone will eventually invent things and he happened to be the guy who did it first? So I disagree with all great man interpretations of history, which are very common in biopics. Oppenheimer is particularly bad with this. It really tries to suggest and portray that Dr. Oppenheimer is like the most special, the most uniquely tragic, mentally challenged, gifted, most special little tragic character, little guy with the most ability ever and the most profound and unique special worldview ever. And it just fucking annoys me watching all of those scenes in like the first half of the movie. I think it's even insulting to the actual person that they're deifying to suggest that they were just an especially great, special class of human being for most of or all of their entire life. That they were uniquely challenged, uniquely gifted, whatever, and that's why they wound up doing the things they did in life. It's especially insulting to everyone else who contributed to the world, which, to be clear, all human beings who ever lived on planet Earth contribute to the world. To act like they're just props surrounding the great central character of reality, fuck off. Now, my feelings on this are very dependent on the specifics of a film. Like, some movies express their artistic liberties in ways that aren't really repainting over reality. Some biopics make a separation between telling you what's known about history and then telling you what the filmmaker's views are on the matters. I think it's perfectly reasonable to make a movie out of a real-life story, just to tell the story, if it's a story worth telling, whatever. When a biopic is about one specific person more than some overarching event, I feel like it tends to push the things I dislike about biopics a bit more often. I think if you're telling the story of someone's life, because what their life did to them and made them do in the world is worth telling, then sure, I guess I don't mind. I prefer documentaries, and anything that you could do in a biopic, you could have done in a documentary. Biopics are just weird because they have, like, they're trying to be based on the factual data that would have gone into a documentary, but they're also just, like, normal fucking dramas, like dramedies. Even if it's about the ancient past, you could have it be a documentary of historians and sources of information. The problem when it comes to movies like Oppenheimer or Killers of the Flower Moon is that the reason that they're popular and liked by their fans is precisely because of the things that I hate about them. Oppenheimer fans don't want a documentary with historians explaining the life and the work of Dr. Robert Oppenheimer. They like and want this cliched, dramatized reenactment of world events. They want to view real history as this fucking cliched story with some simple fucking message to tell us. And that's what bothers me the most about films like Oppenheimer, because I know that the artistic liberties, the writing over of his life and his work and his personhood, the cliched narrative, the cliched scenes, and the cliched dialogue, they aren't an unfortunate byproduct of the biopic. They are the primary selling point of it. Because, unfortunately for me, a lot of people do believe in great man interpretations of history. They want to view history as a series of actions made by a very small number of special people. They want to view one person's opinions or ideas or philosophical ramblings as some unique insight into the world that no one else has. Like Oppenheimer was the only fucking person who viewed the world the way he did, and dumbing down his words and his beliefs and suggesting that they could read his thoughts and just water it down to make you feel like you, some bumfuck nobody, you, some absolute fucking nobody who knows nothing about theoretical physics, that you somehow share and can share and understand in Dr. Oppenheimer's personal and highly specific and experienced and complex thoughts surrounding nuclear reactions and its implications in the world. You think you fucking understand what the real fucking Oppenheimer had to think about those issues? Like, okay, let's look at this year, 2023. How many fucking biopics came out this year? Rustin, Naiad, Oppenheimer, Reality, May December is a semi based on a true story. Killers of the Flower Moon is based on a book based on a true story, kind of. Air, Blackberry, Ferrari, Priscilla, Dumb Money, Napoleon, Iron Claw, and there's others I haven't even seen yet. That's 13 fucking biopics right there. Not documentaries. Those are not documentaries. Those are all biopics. Now, naturally, these all slide along various scales of how much I can tolerate them and their biopic-y shittiness. I hate Napoleon the most, obviously. I find it bizarrely ironic how May December is ostensibly, in part, a criticism of dramatizing real-life scandals and people's ongoing trauma as a result of scandals, and yet it's still itself a dramatization of a real-life scandal involving a serious trauma. But I don't really fucking... I feel like I don't really understand what the fuck they were thinking while making the movie, so I'll put that aside. Oppenheimer is equal parts things I respect and things I adamantly disrespect, in almost perfect balance with each other. Killers of the Flower Moon is similar, like I said in my video I made on that. There are things that bother me morally and practically about the film's concept, but overall I like the movie, I guess. Air, Blackberry, and Dumb Money are all on that more casual viewing of, like, here's a fun semi-comedy, semi-dramedy romp explaining the origins and events behind this thing that you're maybe aware of, and it's not really trying to be too serious or make some big hullabaloo about how earth-shatteringly important and God sent this person or this event is. Both of them are more focused on just the events that happen rather than the psyche and mystique of the individual being followed. I don't love these movies strongly, but I generally am fine and enjoy these movies. Naiad is basically the same, but I just like it a lot more because it's just really good. It's the only difference. Reality and Rustin are both examples of biopics that I can more appreciate, at least in the film's decision-making. Both movies are honest about what they can and what they cannot say for certain about these historical events in different ways. In Rustin, the events are presented with an unrealistic pomp and a heightened dialogue that makes it very clear that you're not watching what is meant to be taken as a one-to-one realistic depiction of what happened during the civil rights movement. You're watching a clearly overtly dramatized approximation of some broad ideas. Nobody talks like a real human being would talk in the movie, so you never feel like the movie is trying to lie to you and say that this is all fucking completely historically accurate. Reality is as close to being a documentary as possible while still being a biopic, like I said. Literally every line of dialogue in the movie is directly from a transcript that was recorded in real life. We have the recorded audio in its entirety of this event the movie captures. We know exactly what each person said, their inflections, how they said it, etc. Reality is very upfront about what details are accurate and what details are unknowns about what happened. And the parts of the movie that are dramatizing the film's own worldview and perspective are generally not putting words into the mouths of real people or real events. They're just more broad concepts that the filmmaker is trying to present, like the FBI is fucking sinister and they feel incredibly sinister when they're trying to entrap you, which is just a more broad stance in the film's direction it's positing, and not like a historical fact or trying to put that oversimplified idea into the mouth of a historical person. Anyways, biopics are dumb. Watch documentaries, stop using your fucking Hollywood sensibilities and cliche narratives to put words in the mouths of dead people or portray real life as this watered-down shibboleth. I watched 40 movies in the past 2 months alone. 13 of them were biopics. You need to fucking stop, okay? Make a real movie, maybe? Tell your own fucking story, maybe? Or make a documentary. That's about it. See ya.